Most people think they were denied a refund because the company said no. Usually, they quit before the system had to say anything, and the system was designed exactly for that. Refund systems are not primarily designed to say no immediately. They're designed to exhaust weak requests. Every delay, every policy reference, every transfer, every let me put you on a brief hold, that's not procedure running slowly. That's a filter running correctly. It's measuring one thing, whether you keep going. Most people don't, and the system doesn't have to do anything else. Here's where most people lose ground before the conversation even starts. They lead with emotion. They over-explain the situation. They argue fairness, and that feels right because it's unfair. But the system is wired to respond to emotion. It's trained to absorb it. Frustration, repetition, raised voices. Frontline staff have a script for all of it. What they have less of a script for is structured, specific, calm language, because that changes what the interaction actually is. It stops being emotional management. It becomes procedural accountability. And these are two completely different conversations. So here's the move. When you've hit resistance, delays, policy references, vague explanations, you stop explaining your situation and you ask one question. Please confirm, is this a policy denial or are you refusing resolution despite documented eligibility? Read that again. You're not asking them to help you. You're asking them to be precise. Precision is what vague resistance can't survive, because now they have to choose. Either cite the specific policy or acknowledge they're not actually citing one. Both of those answers give you something to work with. Vague resistance gives you nothing. Now, when you use that language or any language that gets you a decision, you need it in writing. And this is where most people lose the leverage they just created. If you're on a phone call and you ask them to document that note goes into the internal system. You will never see it. You cannot reference it. It has no weight in your hands. If you're in a live chat, better. But before that window closes, you screenshot it yourself. Don't wait for them to send you a transcript. Take it before you close the tab. Email is the only format where documentation has real teeth, because both parties have a copy and they know you have a copy. So if the interaction is happening by phone or chat and you've reached a decision, you say, can you confirm that in writing to my email? If they won't, that refusal in itself is information. A company that won't put its own policy decision in writing is telling you something about how confident they are in that decision. That matters when you escalate, whether that's a supervisor, a regulator, or a chargeback. Here's what's actually happening in all of this. These systems are not random. They're not undertrained staff having a bad day. They're structured around one reliable assumption: that most people will absorb friction and eventually stop pushing. Verbal interactions leave no trace you control. Repeated explanations wear you down without moving anything forward. Policy language stays vague enough that it's hard to challenge directly. The moment you introduce structured language and written confirmation, you're operating outside the assumptions that the system was built on. Not louder, not more aggressive, clearer. And clarity is the one thing the filter wasn't built to handle. The goal here was never aggression. It was removing their ability to hide behind ambiguity. Because the system wasn't broken when it filtered your request. It was working exactly as designed. Now you know how it works. That's the human factor. And now you know what's actually happening.